Something is draining your B12 every single day, and there's a good chance it's sitting on your kitchen counter right now. Not a medication, not a hidden chemical. Your coffee. I know, coffee has had a good decade. The research on it has been largely positive. Antioxidants, cognitive support, all of it. I'm not here to take that away from you. But there's a piece of this story that almost never comes up. And it's the piece that actually matters most if you're over 50 and you've been feeling off in ways you can't quite explain. It's not the coffee, it's the timing. Drinking coffee within an hour of eating, which is what most of us do every single morning without even thinking about it, may be quietly and consistently blocking your body's ability to absorb vitamin B12. Not dramatically, not all at once, just a little every day, compounding over months and years until one morning you realize you're exhausted, foggy, flat, and you have no idea why. B12 is not just another vitamin. It is the nutrient your nervous system depends on to stay functional. It produces myelin, the protective coating around every nerve in your body. Think of myelin like the rubber insulation around an electrical wire. When that insulation starts thinning, the signals get scrambled. B12 also drives red blood cell production, keeps your brain sharp, and plays a direct role in mood regulation and memory. Without enough of it, things start quietly falling apart in ways that are genuinely easy to blame on something else. The afternoon heaviness that doesn't lift no matter how much you slept. The brain fog that settles in mid-morning and just stays. The flatness of mood you can't really explain to the people who love you. The hair that's thinner than it was 2 years ago. Tingling in your hands or feet that comes and goes. These get filed under getting older, and sometimes that's part of it, but sometimes it isn't. Sometimes the answer is simpler and more fixable than most people realize. Before I go any further, tell me something in the comments. Do you drink your coffee within 30 minutes of eating? Drop a coffee cup emoji down there if the answer is yes. I genuinely read every single comment on this channel, and I want to see how many of us are doing this without realizing what it's costing us. Here's why this matters at the biology level. Because I think once you understand what's actually happening, you won't need me to convince you of anything. You'll just see it. B12 absorption is one of the most finicky processes in the human body. Most nutrients are pretty forgiving. Your gut absorbs them, they get where they need to go. B12 is different. It can't pass through your intestinal wall on its own. It needs a specific escort protein called intrinsic factor, produced by specialized cells in your stomach lining, to carry it safely into your bloodstream. No intrinsic factor, no absorption. It's that binary. Coffee contains high concentrations of two compounds, tannins and chlorogenic acids. Tannins are the polyphenols that give coffee its slightly bitter finish. Chlorogenic acids are the antioxidants that make coffee look good in research. Both of them, when they arrive in your digestive environment close to a meal, appear to interfere with B12 in a couple of distinct ways. Tannins have a documented tendency to bind to nutrients. They do this with iron, they do this with calcium, and research published in the European Journal of Clinical Nutrition suggests they may bind to the cobalamin molecule, the active form of B12, reducing how much your body can actually extract from the food you just ate. The chlorogenic acids separately may affect your stomach's ability to produce that intrinsic factor escort protein in the first place. So you potentially have two things happening simultaneously. One that intercepts the B12, one that reduces the protein your body needs to absorb whatever survives. Researchers at Tufts University's Human Nutrition Research Center on Aging have been among those examining how polyphenol compounds interact with micronutrient bioavailability. And the picture that's emerged is one that most people simply never hear about. I want to be precise here because precision matters more than alarm. This does not mean coffee wipes out all your B12 in a single morning. That's not what the research shows, and I won't say something just because it sounds dramatic. What the research does suggest is that for people who are already running low, and studies consistently indicate that somewhere between 20 and 40% of adults over 50 have suboptimal B12 levels. Even a modest daily reduction in absorption, repeated every morning for years, compounds into something meaningful. It's not a collapse, it's a slow drain, like a very small crack in a water tank you never noticed. And by the time you look at the gauge, you're running nearly empty. And the frustrating part is that this kind of B12 depletion doesn't announce itself. It whispers. Fatigue you keep attributing to a bad night. A mood that never quite comes back up. A sharpness you used to have that just seems slightly out of reach. That's how this tends to show up. And that's why so many people spend years looking for the answer in the wrong places. What I'm about to share doesn't come in a pill bottle. It doesn't require a prescription. It costs nothing. And it's something that most people, genuinely, have never been told. Wait 60 minutes. That's it. Eat first. Let your body absorb your meal in a clean window. Then have your coffee. Research suggests that a 60-minute gap between eating and drinking coffee may be enough to substantially reduce the interference effect and allow proper B12 absorption to occur. You're not giving anything up. You're just changing the order. The timing matters, but so does what you're actually eating in that window. Because if you're not eating much B12 to begin with, fixing the timing won't close the gap entirely. The most bioavailable source of B12 on the planet is beef or chicken liver. I know, that's not what you were hoping to hear. But a small serving, once a week, may provide more usable methylcobalamin, that's the neurologically active form of B12, than nearly any other single food. If that's a hard no, wild-caught salmon and sardines are excellent. 2 to 3 times a week covers a lot of ground. Sardines in particular are remarkable. Inexpensive, shelf-stable, and a single small can may provide a substantial portion of an adult's daily B12 in a form the body handles very well. Whole eggs, the full egg, yolk included, are another reliable source. Research published in the British Journal of Nutrition has suggested the B12 in egg yolks may actually be absorbed with greater efficiency than some other animal sources, partly because of how it's protein-bound. And full-fat Greek yogurt and kefir both provide meaningful B12 through fermentation. Easy to add in, consistently useful. The practical version of this looks like eggs and smoked salmon for breakfast, or chicken liver once a week if you can, coffee 60 minutes later. That's the whole thing. What makes it work is the sequence, not the ingredients. One side note worth mentioning. If you're already taking a B12 supplement and wondering why your numbers haven't moved, the same timing principle applies. Methylcobalamin taken alongside coffee may absorb significantly less well than the same supplement taken an hour earlier. Worth bringing up with your doctor if this is your current routine. And if you have a condition affecting intrinsic factor production, pernicious anemia for example, dietary B12 alone may not be sufficient. And that conversation with your doctor becomes especially important. Margaret spent 34 years as a school librarian, Columbus, Ohio. She was, by her own description, the kind of person who noticed things. Noticed when a student was struggling before the teacher did. Noticed when the reference section needed reorganizing. And noticed, quietly and privately, when things in her own body started shifting in the 2 years after she retired. The tiredness was the first thing. Not the satisfying tired of a long day, something heavier and stranger than that. The kind that was there when she woke up and still there when she went to bed. Then the fog. She'd walk into a room and stand there, genuinely not remembering why she'd come in. She'd search for a word she'd used 1,000 times and find it just slightly out of reach. Her mood had gone quiet in a way she couldn't really explain to her husband. She had blood work done. Iron, fine. Thyroid, fine. Sleep study, inconclusive. Her doctor, genuinely trying to help, started a conversation about antidepressants. Margaret wasn't opposed to that, but she's a librarian. She researched first. She found information about B12 absorption and coffee timing, spent 2 weeks reading everything she could find, and then she made 2 changes. She started eating a B12-rich breakfast first, usually eggs with smoked salmon, waited a full hour, then had her coffee. She added chicken liver once a week, cooked simply with onions. That was it. No supplements, no protocol, just timing and 1 weekly food. By week 3, her afternoons were steadier. By week 6, the fog had meaningfully cleared. At her next routine appointment, her doctor noted that her B12 levels, previously at the low end of the reference range, had risen to a solidly healthy reading. Her doctor asked what she'd changed. When Margaret explained the coffee timing, he paused for a moment, and then said genuinely, "That's actually something more people should know about." Margaret told a friend afterward that the change that made the biggest difference in how she felt cost her exactly nothing. Just 60 minutes of patience in the morning. If you try this, be patient with the timeline. This is not a 1-week fix. It's a slow rebuild. The first thing most people notice is something in the afternoons. Not a surge of energy, just a more even baseline through the day. The 3 p.m. drop that used to feel inevitable starts feeling less so. That tends to come in the first 2 to 4 weeks. Sleep quality often follows. B12 plays a role in melatonin regulation, and some people find that as their levels rise, they wake up feeling more genuinely rested, even when the hours are the same. Mental clarity tends to be weeks 4 to 8. The fog lifts gradually. Word retrieval gets a little easier. Concentration feels less like effort. And mood, which is often the last thing people expect, can shift quietly, subtly, but meaningfully. B12 is involved in the production of both serotonin and dopamine. As levels stabilize, some people simply feel a little more like themselves. Not dramatically, just more like who they used to be. If that's been missing for a while, the sense of being fully yourself, I want to say something directly to you. Your body hasn't given up. The capacity to respond when you give it what it needs is genuinely underestimated. This may not fix everything, but for some people, this one shift, this 1 hour in the morning, turns out to be the thing that was missing for years. And that possibility is worth taking seriously. Take care of your body. It is the only home you will ever truly live in. Stay well, stay strong, and I'll see you next week. If something in this video landed for you, if even one thing made you think, I didn't know that, a like takes 1 second and it genuinely helps this reach the people who need it most. Subscribe if you want to keep getting this kind of content. And please, if you know someone who pours their coffee the moment they finish eating, share this with them. That one share might be more useful to them than you realize. Last question before you go, and I'm genuinely curious about this one. Now that you know about the 60-minute rule, are you actually going to try it? Or does changing a habit you've had for 20 years feel like a lot right now? Tell me honestly in the comments. I read every single one. Next week, I'm looking at something closely related, another morning habit that research suggests may be quietly affecting your vitamin D levels in a way that has nothing to do with how much sunlight you get. I think it'll surprise you. I'll see you there. This video is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your doctor or a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, lifestyle, or medication.